morning, everyone, and welcome to day 2 of the EU GreenWeek virtual conference on the theme of zero pollution for healthier people and planet. Thank you for tuning in from wherever you are to follow this session 2.3, where we will be discussing the special programme Catalysing Progress towards Zero Pollution Ambition by supporting the sound management of chemicals and waste. I'm Aminda Lee, a British-Italian journalist and a moderator specialising in environmental topics, and I'm logging in from Rome today, where Italy is celebrating its Festa della Repubblica, the 75th anniversary of becoming a republic. I'm delighted to guide the discussions in this session, organised in collaboration with the Directorate-General for International Partnerships at the European Commission. I'm going to explain how the next hour will work in a moment, but first I have some practical information for you, which is especially important for those of you who are logging on for the first time. You can send in questions to the speakers by accessing Slido using the QR code which you can see on the screen, or in going to www.slido and then inserting the code EU GreenWeek 2021. And then you can choose room 3 where this session is taking place. You can also find these codes in the virtual auditorium where you're watching us. The questions are going to be moderated, and once they're approved, you can vote on them, and I'll be trying to go to the ones with the most votes first. We're also going to be running a couple of polls today on Slido, and that can be accessed via the polls tab once I've activated the polls. And of course, please do use what I would say is the slightly more older technology now, and tweet about what you've been hearing using the hashtag EU GreenWeek 2021. Now, we'd like to start off with a quick Slido poll to find out more about who you are, who's watching us. So now I'd like to activate our first poll, which is a very simple question to you all, a nice open question. And it says, tell us more about yourself. Who are you? Who's watching us? Do we have policymakers? Are you from an NGO? Maybe you're from academia or a scientist, or maybe you're a person from the general public who's interested about understanding what the special program is. So please send in your one-word answers. I'm going to leave that poll in the background. I can see you've already started to send them in. That's great. Keep them coming in. While that's going on, I'm going to leave it running in the background. I'm going to start talking about how we're going to run this session. Now, toxic chemicals clearly pose serious hazards to both our health and environment, and the special programme was set up by the United Nations Environment Assembly in 2014 to help countries strengthen their national policy framework and institutions to enhance the implementation of international agreements on chemical management. After all, dealing with chemicals properly is actually connected to no fewer than 11 of the Sustainable Development Goals. Let's watch a short video summarising the key points about the special programme. If we could try and start that video, please, that would be most useful. Thank you. We'll leave the Slido poll going. Thank you.
As we work towards a more sustainable future, one of the most critical issues to our health and environment that we must address is the sound management of chemicals and waste. Chemicals and waste are integral to almost all sectors of society, such as medicine and agriculture. But if not managed properly, they can pose risks to our health and ecosystems, resulting in substantial cost to national economies and human life. The special program, also known as the Chemicals and Waste Management Program, aims to support eligible countries in strengthening their institutions, enabling them to soundly manage their chemicals and waste and to meet their international obligations through the development and implementation of policies, legislation and regulation. Stronger national institutions will ensure that chemicals are used and produced in ways that minimize their negative impact. This will not only help the global effort for sustainable development, but will also contribute in strengthening the country's economy and quality of life. The Special Programme Trust Fund provides financial support from $50,000 to $250,000 per project proposal, and up to $500,000 in exceptional circumstances. Each project must be completed within 3 years. Governments of developing countries and countries with economies in transition, with a special focus on least developed countries and small island developing states, are eligible for support from the special program. A special program project must be country-driven, with a plan to ensure long-term sustainability. The project should aim to coordinate policies, strategies, and national programs for the sound management of chemicals and waste. It should also facilitate and enable the implementation of the Basel, Rotterdam, and Stockholm Conventions, the Minamata Convention, and the Strategic Approach, and should seek to address the country's national priorities, engaging relevant government ministries, the private sector, and NGOs. A project should build upon previous and ongoing initiatives and ensure a strong gender mainstreaming component. Many special program projects are already in effect all around the world, effectively tackling a variety of chemical and waste management issues. Through the special program, you can help your country achieve a higher quality of life, benefiting its economy and society, while joining the global effort to safeguard the environment for a more sustainable and greener future. Get to know the special program and find guidance on how you can apply.
Thank you. Well, I hope that's given you an idea of the basics. And obviously, you don't need to go online immediately to find out about the special program, because we have our guests with us who are going to be telling us about it from various points of view. The way the session will work is we're going to have some short introductory statements from everyone, and then we're going to go straight to your questions on Slido, and I'll be going to the ones with the highest votes first. And so let's meet our panelists. We have Monika MacDevette, who is Chief of the Chemicals Health Branch in the Economy Division at the United Nations Environment Programme, which provides the Secretariat for the special programme. Please say hello.
Hello, everyone.
Thank you. Then we have Carla Montesi. She is Director of the European Commission's Directorate-General for International Partnerships, responsible for the Green Deal and Digital Agenda Directorate. Say hello. Okay, you'll have to unmute yourself the next time. Okay, then we have Santos Virgilio, who is coordinator of the National Chemicals and Waste Management Coordinating Unit at the Ministry of Environment in Angola. Welcome. Please switch off your microphone and say hello.
Thank you. Hello.
Thank you. And last but not least, we have Tatiana Tugui from the Environmental Pollution Prevention Office at the Ministry of Environment in Moldova.
Good morning, everyone. Nice to be here.
Nice to see you all. And now I'd like to close the word cloud, and I'd like to see the results on screen. So you've met the speakers, and now they're going to understand a little bit about who you are. So we have a lot of people, different professions here. Obviously, we have quite a lot of people from UNEP, environmental policy, academia. I see that's interesting. Private sector. The private sector have, of course, a very important role in all of this, and we'll be hearing how they've been involved in the projects on the ground. Okay, thank you. I'm now going to close the voting on the word cloud because now we know who you are. We also would like to know how chemicals are where you are. And so I'd like to now close this poll and open the next one. And the next one is to find out how much you know about chemicals. And the question, if we could launch this poll, the next one on Slido, is which of the following products that we use in everyday life may contain harmful substances? And then here we've got quite a long list: bedding, clothes, disposable face masks, so we all know about those, electronics, food containers, toiletries. You have quite a long choice there. And in fact, there's also more down at the bottom. So please do scroll down the list if you can't see them all instantly. The last one on the list is none of the above. So I'm going to leave that poll in the background just to see how much you understand. And I just wanted to say to people that yesterday in the high-level session on a healthy environment for healthy lives, the head of the European Environment Agency listed proper chemical management as his #1 priority to mainstream across the world to help achieve zero pollution. And of course, as you will hear in this session, the special program is an important part of that process. Right, I'm now going to, we want to move on and hear from our speakers, so I would like to actually, I'm going to close the poll in a minute, and so that we can actually see the results. I could see that most people were saying all of the above, rather than none of the above. But if we could actually see those results on the screen, that would be nice. And then I'm going to go to our first speaker and also get reaction on that. So obviously, most people thought that all of the substances, 81% of you thought all of those substances could contain harmful chemicals. Now, that's actually quite amazing if you think about it, because just getting up in the morning, having a shower, getting dressed, you're actually exposed to a huge mixture of chemicals before you even walk out of the front door. So very, very interesting, and obviously you're all quite aware of that. Though interesting to note that electronics and toys were the ones that you thought had the most chemicals in them. I think I'd like to ask Monika MacDevette from UNEP to give her introductory remarks and maybe react to the results of that poll.
Great, thanks very much, Amanda. And yes, I think your points are well made in terms of the awareness that we have on chemicals and products with chemicals in them in our lives. So let me just go in and just give you a few comments about the special program. And once again, say hello and welcome to everyone for participating in this GreenWeek session. I'm really happy to be able to provide you with some information in addition to what you saw in the video about the special program on institutional strengthening. But first of all, I'd like to congratulate the EU on its adoption of its Zero Pollution Action Plan for water, soil, and air that was adopted on the 12th of May. And certainly as UNEP, we look forward to continuing to work with the EU and its member states, as well as all member states, to progress the work of the implementation plan towards a pollution-free planet, which was welcomed by the UN Environment Assembly at its 4th session, March 2019, as a follow-up to a ministerial declaration agreed in 2018 at UNEA on environment and health. This implementation plan that was adopted by all member states at UNEA in 2019 has 5 key high-impact solutions and accelerators, which include implementation capacity, incentives, and integrated policies. The special program aligns with this call for impact solutions. As you may be aware, there is an Office for the High Commissioner on Human Rights, Special Rapporteur for Toxics and Human Rights, Dr. Marcos Orellana. He has commended as well the European Commission for including in its 2020 Chemical Strategy for Sustainability the objective to ensure that hazardous chemicals banned in the EU are not produced for exportation, and the plan to have the use of risk of chemical pesticides and use of more hazardous pesticides by 2030. He's made a number of very important recommendations, and I would strongly encourage everyone to check out the kind of recommendations that the Special Rapporteur has made by going to their website. In 2022, UNEP will be celebrating its 50th anniversary, and we have long been working to minimize the adverse effects of chemicals and waste on human health and the environment. We work closely with governments, industry, and civil society organizations around the world to develop mainstream solutions on the sound management of chemicals and waste. UNEP has acknowledged pollution status as one of the 3 interconnected planetary crises requiring urgent action, and we will be addressing pollution as a key priority in our new medium-term strategy for 2022 to 2025. What I'd like to do is perhaps give you some examples of where the special program has had some successes and completion of a number of projects. So let me first turn to Argentina, for example. Under the special program support, Argentina has developed or established a Directorate of Chemicals Management, which is an extensive engagement with the private sector on issues related to chemicals management. For example, Belarus has created a national infrastructure for the ratification and implementation of the Rotterdam Convention. Using special program funding, the Dominican Republic has established an electronic system for the import and registration of chemical substances. And in Kyrgyzstan, they have developed an action plan to strengthen the national legislative framework of the country. Moldova, which I'm sure you'll hear more about, has adopted a framework law on chemicals and created a chemicals agency. Serbia has established an information system to facilitate data collection for national reporting. And Tanzania, for example, has established a national strategy on sound management of chemicals and waste. Looking forward to the future, the 5th round of applications was launched already on the 7th of April 2021 with a closing date of 7 August. And we look forward to seeing another round of projects approved for 2022. UNEP and the special program and the recipient governments are very much appreciative of the commitment and support of donors such as the EU, which have played a pivotal role in the work of the special program to date. A new focus on monitoring, evaluation, and communicating lessons learned will help to make the case for continued support and attract additional donors, which we are very grateful for. So with those few comments, I'll leave it at that, and I look forward to your questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Monika. And talking about donors, that's who we're going to hear from next. We've heard that this special program is funded through voluntary contributions, with the total pledges to date amounting to $29 million US. The EU has always supported the initiative right from the start and is its biggest donor. And so now we're going to hear from Carla Montesi from DG for International Partnerships at the Commission. Can you tell us, why is the EU such a strong supporter of this special program?
Thank you, Aminda, and good morning to all of you, this time with my audio. Many thanks for your question, but allow me to start saying that chemicals and waste management is indeed an important global issue for the European Union. As you mentioned, we produce about 400 million tons of hazardous waste each year worldwide. And a shift to sustainable consumption and production clearly requires the commitment of all diverse actors in the world. The European Union is very committed, and allow me just to recall some key elements that were already mentioned by Monika. The European Union member states have clearly been driving forces in the adoption of and implementation of the Basel, Rotterdam, Stockholm, Minaman Convention that you had in your video. As you know, in the recent adoption of the European Green Deal or the Zero Pollution Action Plan that is just being adopted, Europe has strong strategies with clearly objective for the transition to a green economy and the fight against the pollution. But as was already mentioned by you, global environment and the climate changes need global responses. And this is the reason why both these strategies have a strong international dimension. In the last 2 years, we have even strengthened this external dimension because, as you know, in 2020, Chemical Strategy for Sustainability, we have set the objective to ensure also that hazardous chemicals banned in European Union are obviously not a product for the exportation. And this is very, very important in our relationship with our partner countries. And also in the next Zero Pollution Action Plan just mentioned, we have even more ambitious objective, achieving by 2015 a toxic-free environment is an objective that is foreseen within and outside the European Union borders. So this implies that we have really strong engagement at the multilateral level, and we will see immediately, but also we are actively working with our partner countries in Africa, in Asia, in Pacific, in Latin America, in Caribbean, with clearly project and program tackling climate change, biodiversity loss, and pollution. As you know, unfortunately, citizens in many development countries are being increasingly exposed to chemicals, radiation, and air water pollution for the urban development that we all are seeing, but also because countries struggle to ensure clean development of sound chemicals or waste management, taking into account also their rapid industrialization. So our action is really very, very important. In the last years, we have devoted over than 130 million to promote sound management of chemicals and waste in partner countries, to strengthen policies, regulation, and institutional capacity. Now, on special program, I reiterate, what you have just said, that we are clearly a proud supporter of this program since the beginning. We have its biggest donor, and you mentioned what is for us the added value. Allow me to say that this program put emphasis on sustainability through multi-stakeholders engagement, through mainstreaming. And this is very much in line with the European policies. As mentioned by Monika, this program plays an essential role in strengthening national policies and strengthening institutions in our partner countries. It implements country-driven projects, and once again, this is very much in line with our approach. One other element that I would like to add is that mainstreaming chemicals and waste consideration through the key industry sector is clearly a key element on the special program that we considered an essential point. I stop here and I will join you for any additional question and answer. Please, thank you. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Carla. And interesting what you were talking about, the fact that Europe shouldn't be exporting its waste as a way of resolving its problems on dealing with waste. And I think some of that may come up in our discussions with our next two speakers, who actually have experience running projects as part of the special program in their countries. Before I come to them, please a reminder, don't forget to send in your questions via Slido on the questions Q&A tab, and you can vote on people's questions when they get sent in. So I'm looking forward to receiving lots of questions on that, because there is quite a lot to cover in this topic. And so now let's turn to the beneficiaries of the special program. Since it started, as we've heard, there have been 4 rounds of funding finalized, with 57 projects approved around the world, including in Angola and Moldova. And so I'm going to start with a brief summary of Angola's involvement with Santos Virgilio. He is at the country's National Chemicals and Waste Management Coordinating Unit. Santos, please can you tell us more about Angola's special project project?
Thank you. First of all, say who we are. We are an African country, and as all the African countries, we are an importing country. Most of the products we use, we import them. So importing them, we're importing also wastes, and we're importing, let's say, the west side, what's happening in other countries, especially the developed countries. And many countries, African countries like Angola, we are now in the times of we are selling the picture of developing the country. Developing the country means that we are slowly bringing industries in the country. Bringing industries, most of the industries they come from developed countries. And at the end of the day, you will see that most of them, they are obsolete industries. And they come with the flag of job creation. But in the end of the day, we'll see that the job creation is just an element, but they are also waste creation, meaning that instead of solving the problems, we also bring problems to the country with those obsolete industries, because our countries are weak countries, and anything coming saying that, okay, they will come and will help us and will make us a developed country, and they will bring for us this possibility of employing people because the rate of unemployment is very high. So it's easily the government buy on it. Okay, if it's going to create jobs, will alleviate the poverty and so on. This is also the flag. But at the end of the day, and because the country doesn't have the condition to evaluate exactly what is coming, how good or how bad it is, sometimes the danger is also there. And with the special program, what we intend, okay, because we have also many players in terms of chemicals. Waste is okay, on one side, but chemicals. We have also the issue that we need to develop the agriculture. Agriculture is one of the flags also, even in terms of job creation and in terms of feeding people, we need to develop agriculture. Developing agriculture means that we will be using agrotoxics. I involve that one. Okay, the Ministry of Agriculture gives licenses for import of, let's say, pesticides and fertilizer and so on. And we have the Ministry of Health dealing with medicines and other hospital supplies. And also they give also permission to that one. And we will find the Ministry of Finance with the customs and so on. So with the special program, we intend to create a coordinated approach. Instead of having each player playing alone, why not coordinate exactly together? And the customs are the most important, are also important there because most of chemicals, we are getting them from abroad, either by harbors or airports, but so the customers are very important, and we have been having great cooperation with them, and we're involving all other sectors, health, labor, agriculture, and so on. We are still building that coordinated mechanism. It's not yet totally in place, but at least when you talk about this one, you already can find that the feedback is good. It now is the special program that will. The key is how good we will be in terms of getting, instead of only having theoretical feedback, and put in place instruments that will help us to have all these, something that can work like automatically. When it comes, we know any problem raising, we know which door we're gonna knock, and that there are people who will give us the response, and we'll have that approach. And also here we have a very good partner, which is the army. The army is a key partner because they have structures, they have technical capacity, and they have resources also. And most of the time, when there is a problem of, let's say, toxicity, the army is called to help, because sometimes the civilians they are not, the preparedness the military have, other sectors don't have. So they have been collaborating with us all the time. And also we are working also in terms of looking on all legislation, existing legislation, how we can reinforce laws and regulation to make it not only like, okay, a willing of people, but is in the structure, and trying to put it also that in the next national program of development, the issues of chemicals and waste must be there clearly. Now they are there, but they are like a quality of life. And
Santos,
not
I'm going to
specific,
stop
like,
you there
yeah.
because we
Thank
have to
you.
hear from other people, but I certainly want
Yeah.
to hear more, and particularly hear about this AMI you've talked about. I don't know if everybody who's watching actually knows about that, so we can explore a little bit about that and the involvement of the private sector in your special program projects in a moment. But I'd now like to go, thank you, and I'm now going to come to Europe and Moldova, which has already completed one special project. I must stop saying those three words together because I keep getting them mixed up. And that the first one included setting up a chemicals agency, among other things, and it's about to start implementing a second project. So now, as we hear from Tatiana Tugui from the Ministry of Environment in Moldova, in the background, we'll be running a slideshow of some pictures from special program projects in Moldova and the Dominican Republic. So it's over to you, Tatiana Tugui.
Thank you, Aminda. Thank you for this opportunity to share our experience, how we implement special projects in our Moldova. We all live in a world that moves us at an incredible pace, posing endless challenges, and we are confident that our resilience is testing more than ever before. And it became obvious that we need to have a long-term beneficial approach for both, for environment and for everything that surrounds us. And we have to take into consideration the climate change adverse impact that may be caused by waste as well. Solution lies in the transformation, in the way how we produce, what we produce, how we consume, and how we dispose these goods after consumption. And we need to have a good policy, we need to have a good legal framework as well infrastructure to face all these problems. In line with the national 2030 SDG and European accession aspiration of the government of Moldova, we would like to mention that we undertaken strong commitment to make chemicals and waste management more efficient and effective. We approved two legal frameworks very important for us, waste law in 2009 and 2016, and chemicals law in 2018. All these two laws help us to bring and build a new legal framework for these two main important areas of environmental protection. With the support of special project, I would like to mention that we mentioned to continue legal development. We developed new legislation for peak and waste shipment regulations. That means we transpose Basel and Rotterdam Convention in our policy. Following EU legislation, we did new IT tools that will help companies to apply for the permit, address questions, and do reporting using single window approach in the timely manner. All this activity really build a strong support to develop new waste and chemicals management in our country. We are happy to tell you about new project that will come soon, that we will start implementing to continue legal enforcement and build support for the authority as well for the business to implement all this legislation. Having legislation in place, it's not enough and not sufficient. We need to put much more effort in its enforcement. So a new project that will come soon will based on this activity. We will try to support chemical agency to address emerging issue. We will try to support business society to do chemical inventory, to preparing guidelines, to prepare a checklist in order to ensure improper environmental control. What I would like to mention as the lesson learned of this project that was done and the new one that should come, the sharing information among key actors, looking on their opinion, build trust and give us indication that future implementation of legal framework will be easy. And we would like to use this sharing information among the involved stakeholders, among the project implementation, as a key issue for the effectiveness of the policy approved and its implementation in the near future. I cannot finish my statement before bring a good high appreciation of our country for the successful cooperation with UNEP, Department of Chemical, especially for its long contribution during the past 7 years. in long-term contribution of donor governments to strengthening sustainable management of chemicals in our country. At the same time, we would like to bring our knowledge to the donor governments, the special program that really enhance capacity of institutional capacity, legal capacity, not only on our country, but the country around the world, to improve waste and chemicals waste legislation and meet sustainable development goals. Probably I will stop here and then we will give more insensitive about the results based on the questions that will be raised.
Thank you, Tatiana. And we do have some questions coming in. Thank you very much indeed. Keep them coming in and keep voting on the ones that you would like me to ask. I'm also going to keep you busy on Slido because I'd like to launch another poll, which I'm going to keep going until going for a while. So if we could launch the next Slido poll, which is about obstacles. And it is, which is the biggest obstacle standing in the way of the sound management of chemicals and waste, as far as you're concerned? So as you can see here, we already have on the screen, you can see the questions, the question and the options. So is it not enough money? Is it not enough know-how? Not enough political buy-in? People don't see it as a priority, or too much dependency on chemicals in everyday life? Or there are no obstacles. So I'm going to keep that running in the background. And what I'd like to do before I come to your questions, I have one important question I'd like to put to both our recipient countries. And I'll start with you, Santos. It's the same question for both of you. Can you tell us one key way in which the special program has helped your work in Angola on chemicals and waste management? One key way, if you want two, but one certainly.
The key way is to bring information that can link in the mind of people that public health has to do with the use of chemicals. Yeah, this is the key. People, because we use it daily, in daily basis, but we don't relate specifically the problems of public health with the use or with the bad use of chemicals in all our life.
And so the special program is helping you to raise that awareness that health and chemicals are related.
Yeah, it is helping, and also the multi-sectorial approach, saying that we are all in the same boat. So
okay, thank you.
I think that was to play its own role.
I think Tatiana also covered that as well. Tatiana, for you in Moldova, what is the one key way in which the special program is helping you manage chemicals and waste?
Probably I will start with this, that being a country with economic transition, we have to build new economy. We have to have, first of all, strong legislation and make it enforceable. And this helps us a lot. The special program has a lot to do new legislation, to have new programming in terms of building environmental sustainable economy.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. And now let's go to your questions. And I'm going to go to the one, we'll see the questions, not the poll, that we're going to come back to the poll later on. And so the top voted question so far: what do the Angolan Moldovan speakers think of the EU commitment not to export hazardous chemicals that are banned on the EU market, e.g. pesticides? I don't know who would like to come in on that first. I mean, I know that, that both of you in a way have touched on this and exporting. Santos, you were talking about the tussle between trying to get more agriculture in your country. So can I ask your reaction to that question? What do you think about the EU's commitment not to export hazardous chemicals that are banned on the EU market? Santos? Okay, all right, Tatiana.
Yes, I can say a few words about this. As we approved peak regulation, in fact, we have banned all these chemicals that is banned in Europe and that is listed in the Rotterdam Convention. This means all these pesticides will not enter in our market. And we have this positive list of approved chemicals, pesticides available to put on the market. That means that one that is not on the list, they are not allowed to be imported in the country. So by this legislation, we definitely make rules what kind of chemicals may be imported in our country.
Okay, thank you. Hopefully Santos will join us in a moment. And so I will go on to the next question while we're waiting for him to log back on. And this was sent in, we have lots of anonymous people sending in questions today. And this one is, how does the special program make sure that the learnings from supported projects are mainstreamed into future projects and actions? I think, Monika, obviously that goes to you.
No, thank you very much for that question. And it's a really important question because a lot of effort and a lot of investment does go into supporting institutional strengthening in countries. So it's important that we actually take those lessons learned and share them. So in terms of mainstreaming them, I've taken a couple of points from that question. And I think what we do is we look at the evaluations of the projects and we take the best practices, we look at things that have worked, we look at the evidence that has been presented, and look at how we can pursue that mainstreaming through any future projects and project applications, because some countries have put in second applications to build on the progress that they've made. Secondly, we work with the chemicals-related conventions. And so, as we've said earlier, they go hand in hand with the work that is already being done and implemented within the chemicals and the country's obligations under those chemicals-related conventions. So there is that complementarity, and we make sure that we're working with the priorities that are set by the countries and make sure that we're filling gaps and not duplicating or leaving something out. And I think thirdly, there's a new program within the special program, and that is on monitoring and evaluation. And we're looking forward to being able to pull out on a more continuous basis some of the learning and also the fine-tuning with the recipient countries to make sure that these kinds of mainstreaming activities actually do get undertaken. And so I think that's really important, and it goes hand in hand, monitoring and evaluation, with our communications work, so that we share these learnings so that other countries can in fact take those on board without going through the long process themselves, and perhaps fast tracking a little bit some of the good work that has been done. So I'll leave it at that, and maybe some of the other speakers could add to that.
Okay, well, that very interesting, because as you say, mainstreaming these things is most important. Santos, welcome back. Thank you. Sorry you had your technical problems. This is one of the things that happens in the virtual world. But nice to have you back. I would just like to go back to that question that was asked to you. We had a question that asked your opinion about what you thought about the EU saying that it will not export hazardous substances that are banned in the EU. That was something you kind of raised in your introduction. What's your reaction to that?
It's good to hear that, but we, as all the African countries, want to see it in practical, to be practiced, not only theoretically. Because, okay, we know that when there is agreements with governments and so on, everything is clear. But when it comes to practice, doesn't help, because even in Africa now we have problems of waste dumping from Europe to Africa. We have the case of Liberia, we have the case of Tunisia, we have the case of Cote d'Ivoire and all this. Although that politically everything is okay, but when it comes in details, when it comes in practice, it doesn't happen. So there is a need that even in Europe, the countries, the governments in Europe should reinforce, as we in Africa, we're trying to reinforce the laws and make it useful. In Europe should be also that watch. They should watch it, what their companies, what their industries are doing.
Absolutely. And this is why you, and I know that Tatiana, you both think that the customs side of all of this is very, very important. And the customs people have to have the training and understand what they're dealing with and the implications of it. Now, I'm just going to quickly go back to our poll because we had a few technical problems and we had polls mixed up. So hopefully you're not mixed up. But just to remind you, the poll is the biggest obstacle to standing in the way of sound management of chemicals and waste. And I can see that we've had quite a few people voting, but we'll have a look at that, the final votes in a moment. I want to go back to your questions. And let's see the next one. How does the special program address sound chemicals and waste management and cross-cutting issues such as climate change and biodiversity? Now, this is how do we get it all together? Now, obviously, Monika, that's you, but I would like to hear from you, Carla, because obviously for the EU, it's important to have an integrated approach where everything all fits together and we don't have one policy that is going against another. So Monika and then Carla, please.
Great, no, thanks for that. And of course, it's a really important question for sure. And as I started to point out in my introductory comments, UNEP has recognized three really critical planetary crises that we're facing. One of them is climate change, the other is biodiversity loss, and the third is pollution. And all three are interdependent and they do have an impact on each other. And so it is really important to make sure that we look at a holistic and integrated approach to chemicals management because pollution affects all of the life on this planet and is affected and impacted by climate change. And so I think we do need to make sure that we take an integrated as well as a holistic look at how we deal with pollution, and chemicals, and certainly chemicals and waste are part of that mainstreaming. Perhaps Carla, we could ask you to comment on that as well.
Absolutely, it's clear, and in any case, it's clear the approach from the European Union. When we look to the Green Deal strategy, we can say that it's the growth strategy for Europe, that it's clearly an integrated and holistic strategy. With the main strands of this strategy, we have, of course, everything that it's the fight against biodiversity loss, but it's one key element of this strategy is also our farm to fork strategy, all the key legislation on energy. So it's clearly a multi-strand approach, very integrated, that will move from the energy sector looking to clean energy, to the water sanitation, clean water sanitation, but also to the waste management, but also with the sustainable agriculture and everything that it's linked with the health. So clearly an integrated approach will be clear, including all the elements on waste management. Just linking also to what some speakers said, it's very, very important also the key element that we have for the waste and on the agricultural sector. So just to give a clear example, in our farm to fork strategy, part of the Green Deal, there is clearly the commitment from the EU to seek to reduce pollution through the promotion of more climate resilience and an ecological efficient approach, but also the reduction of the use of fertilizer and the pesticides that are clearly harmful to health and to the environment. So all these key elements are all together in a clearly integrated approach.
Interesting. And I think this integrated approach is very important. And I'm going to click in and get this into a question that we've just had in, which got 5 votes, about how does the special program support beneficiary countries with transitioning to circular green economy models? And while I should be hearing from Monika about that, I want to ask Tatiana and Santos, maybe, do you see the special program helping your transition in that way?
Yes, this is another important issue that have to be mentioned, and thank you for these questions. EPR is core issue to move from the ordinary waste management, so the old approach on waste management, to circular economy. With the support of special program, we have a good exchange experience with Serbian colleagues, sharing experience how the EPR is implemented in Serbia. Our business representative, our authority visited this country. They saw how this work in the let's say recently country who approved recently EU legislation, and we are most or less in the same condition, maybe not so advanced as Serbia, but it was really help us to see their experience, how they promote EPR legislation. Within these 2 years, we see really progress, how our countries start moving, and the legislation and the packaging has been approved, and we are now looking for implementing EPR, implementing the depository fund system that will help definitely to build the first element of the circular economy. I would come back to your question with the related climate change and waste sector. I would like to mention that if in Europe, waste management sector count to 3% of greenhouse gas emissions, in our country, waste sector count up to 11%. That means we have a big room of improvement, and we need to really put a lot on the waste infrastructure to reduce greenhouse gas emission arising from these sectors. And this is additional needs for our country to build proper waste management infrastructure in order to avoid not only pollution reduction from the chemicals and waste, but as well to reduce climate change adverse impact of the waste sectors.
I was talking when I was muted. Thank you. And Santos, how is the special program helping Angola transition to the circular green economy?
Yeah, in the program, we have an item that is envisaged to create a private-public partnership. It's a pilot project on plastic, which is on circular economy. And we already designed the terms of reference. We intend to work mainly with women, because in the informal collection of wastes, there are lots of women involved, especially young women involved on this one. But when it comes to EPR, let's say we are in a phase that we are trying to attract investment for the country. It seems to be tricky, this one. Okay, but we have to give them incentives for them to come. They must see that there is talking about business, there is an environment, a business environment which is good, which is attractive. And EPR for now is just for sensitizing, making people aware that there is a need. And again, the level of industrialization in the country is not that much big. So coming with EPR can be seen even from other sectors, like, as always, they see the environment or environmentalists like people against the development. So we're still in the phase of awareness, making people understand that when we are coming with these, we are raising these issues is for the good, for the sustainability of the country, not only looking at the result tomorrow, but the result medium and long term. It's still a very sensitive issue, especially taking into account the phase the country is living in. It's phase to attract investment because the resources for the country are not enough. And when you are coming with these, it can become like a barrier of that, can be seen like against the development of the country. So special program is helping us in terms of setting up all the structures and making all the bases. Because when we implement all the activities, we're involving also the parliament. Members of the parliament attend our activities on the special program. So we are putting our seeds in different sectors. The result will come a bit later.
And interesting what you say about the fact that you're involving, obviously, Parliament, because political buy-in is really important. And talking about which, I would like to now just have a look at our Slido poll that we were doing, the one about what are the challenges. Can we have a look at the results of that poll, please? Because as I remembered from before, not enough political buy-in is the biggest challenge that people are facing when they're trying to manage waste soundly and chemicals as well. Interesting that we also had too much dependency on chemicals in everyday life. Usually not enough money is the one that's the top one. So it's nice to see that that is actually not necessarily the biggest barrier to this time. So what I'd like to do is we're now coming, believe it or not, almost coming to the end of this. But what I'd like to do is use this vote as an idea for your final comments to wrap up and say, how we can overcome these obstacles, the obstacles that you have come across and the obstacles that people are seeing here. How can we get more political buy-in, and how can the special program help us do that and raise awareness of the issue of managing chemicals and waste in a sound way. So what I'm going to do is I will start with Tatiana.
I would say...
I'm sorry to throw that at you, but...
No, it's okay. But I would say that we have good policy, we have good legislation, but we lack infrastructure and we need to build it. And I believe that with cooperation with the international financing facility, with the mutual support from the state budget, we will manage to scale up this environmental investment to build infrastructure for the waste and chemicals management. And it's important to connect to all this issue also science, technology, innovation, and not least, but maybe most important, to include EPR, extended producer responsibility, include corporate and social responsibility as a key drivers in order to build sustainable economic and social progress.
Okay, thank you. I mean, I think obviously this integrated approach and getting everybody involved is very important from all sectors. Santos, would you like to leave us with your closing words and tell us how we can get those politicians, that political buy-in?
It's challenging. We need to create evidences to convince them in terms of when we talk about public health and when we talk about money. So we have to tell them the links between the good or bad management of chemicals and waste in the economy. So if you can involve science and produce enough evidence, politicians are always available. They want to see about that one. Public health and resources for the country are important. If we can create these links, and we are in the good way. So we have just, the special program is starting point, and then we have to go in the conventions, find the other mechanisms of funding and develop projects that will be convincing governments and to see it as a serious issue that has implications in the development of the country. Because by now it's still like only scientific, and they don't see clear links with public health and with the development of the country.
Thank you very much indeed. And now I'd like to come to Carla. Obviously, the European Union is very committed to this program, and also elements such as green diplomacy, which is written into the Zero Pollution Action Plan. How can the EU leverage and help the special program reach more countries, reach more projects, and also widen its, let's say, expand its range?
Thank you. And allow me to say that it's clear from our debate that strengthening policies, regulation, institutional capacity, awareness raising, but also, as was mentioned by Tatiana and Santos, leveraging, facilitating investment in key infrastructure will be key for the success about tackling chemical and the waste. In our international partnership, we will use all our tools that you have already mentioned between the policy dialogue, public diplomacy, our financial instrument, including the new financial instrument to facilitate the financing of the key infrastructure, sustainable infrastructure. So all our key external relation instrument will be used to further work with our partner countries to promote this transition to clean and sustainable development pathway. It's clearly necessary to accelerate this transition, and we really want to encourage our partner countries and using all our instruments. Now, the special program, it's really an important program. I think there is very much to learn from this experience, and it's as Monika said, the evaluation will be very, very important in order to be able to replicate the success, scale up, and build support also from additional partner countries.
Thank you. I'm going to have to stop you there because we're coming to the end of the session, and I do want to hear from Monika. Final word. I'm afraid you have a sentence, Monika.
Yes, let me just say that what we need to do is recognize that institutional strengthening really is one of the priorities of many, many countries, and that it requires consistent support because we're dealing with government institutions, and these are the sort of things that need that consistent and focused support over the longer term. So it's really, really important. And again, thank you to particularly the EU, but also all of the other donor countries in providing that support. It's always one of the priorities that comes up from member states at the UN Environment Assembly, for example. So we do need to continue to support our member state countries to achieve those very ambitious goals that we all set for ourselves, and to achieve the sustainable development goals that all governments have really set themselves to achieve by 2030. And so the consistent support and that recognition that institutional strengthening de facto is working with governments, and we do need to have that support over the years. So we really appreciate, and like I said earlier, we're coming into the 5th round, and we look forward to continued support from all of our donors and new donors as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Monika. And yes, the 5th round is open, and the closing date is the 7th of August 2021. So you do have a bit of time. Now, we're coming to the end of the session now. There's a 15-minute break, and then from 11:15 onwards, there are the Life Award ceremony. Sessions start again later on, and there are actually 2 more sessions on chemicals in the program happening this afternoon. Check it out and tune in. And so the only thing left for me to do is to thank our expert speakers on behalf of our session organizers. They were very illuminative and really helped us understand about the special program. And thanks to everyone who's watching and who's been sending in questions. Thank you. We had a lot of them. Some of them touched on the same subjects, which is why I didn't go back to them. And thank you for watching and voting. Your great participation is much appreciated. And with that, I now close this session.
Many thanks,
Many thanks to all. It was a very nice